Okay, these are all the books that I've read in the past 3 months. Let me just take a breath. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name's Shelly, and in today's video I am doing like a January, February, March wrap up of all the books that I've read. It was a lot to go through. In the 3 months I read 21 books in the 3 months, which is like not bad, but like not as much as I wanted to because I've been so busy. I read 7 books in the month of January. The first one I read on my Kindle is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I don't really remember what happens, but from my memory it's about a main character named Kina Rowan. After serving 5 years in prison, she returns back to her hometown, this small town where everyone knows everyone, in hopes to kind of reunite with her 4-year-old daughter that she had in prison, who's currently with her ex-boyfriend's family. Since she went to prison, like, you know, there's negative connotations towards that, and you know, small towns, everyone knows everyone, and technically what happens to her, everyone knows the story and stuff like that. Well, they think they know. So she's trying to rebuild the bridges that burned when she went to prison, and then she meets this guy, Ledger Ward, who is an owner of this local bar, and yeah, they end up meeting, they end up kind of connecting and rehashing the past, and stuff comes out, the truth, the ugly, all that. And from that point on, like, Ledger's kind of the only person she has in that town that is kind of like helping her rebuild the connection she lost and potentially get to her daughter. My thoughts, I think I rated this book a 4 stars. A lot of people said this was like a sad book. I don't know, I didn't really cry. I found out that famous quote, I'll put it on the screen. It's like, there is before you, during you, and I never thought there'd be an after you. That's where it came from, and that like really hit me so hard. The next book I read was also on my Kindle. I don't know if this is like, I guess it's like classified as one book, but there's like 5 books in that book, and that's the Mindfuck series. And this book, oh my god, this book got me out of a reading slump. This book is about Lana, who is like a serial killer and has gone so many years planning her plans for these people and how she's gonna kill them and all that. And then she meets this FBI agent named Logan, and Logan is actually the FBI agent on her case, trying to find who's been killing all these people that she's been killing. And then they start up having a relationship, and there's so much lies and all that. When they start dating, Lana's hiding all these things, trying to keep him away from whatever she's doing, and Logan's so like oblivious to it, like just doesn't know what's happening. And even though there's like so many red flags and times where she's almost slipped, I rated the books individually, but overall the whole series I would give a 5 stars. It was so good. It was fast-paced. It kept me on my toes. At first you're like introduced to this main character, Lana. She's killing all these people, and you're like, why is she doing that? But like as you go through the book, like you find out about her past and everything that happened, and you just understand. I was kind of glad that she killed all those people because of what she went through. Definitely do recommend. All the books I read on my Kindle are Kindle Unlimited, so you can read them for free if you have the subscription. Next book I read in January, very hyped up, very popular, I know you guys know about this book, is Fourth Wing. I love this book. I give it a 5 star. This is about their main character, Violet, who is in like this war school where you're supposed to like pick which quadrant you go into. There's like there's just a whole bunch of different quadrants. I don't remember them from the top of my head, but she initially wanted to go to like the scribes or writing quadrant because like her dad was a scribe, and she has trained all her life to be a scribe. But then her mom forces her into the dragons or the writers quadrant because her sister was a writer and the mom was a writer, so the mom wanted her to continue the legacy of the family. And then this quadrant is like so intense. There's so many people dying just getting there and stuff like that, and she defies all odds because she's like described as like small, not strong, weak, and all that, because there's so many challenges you need to complete. And they ride dragons. I wanted to say I love the dragons in here, they're so funny. And then she meets Zayden, who she's told from the beginning to stay away from, but then things happen, and I know you guys already know, but like there's some chemistry between them, and you know, things develop between them, and it just goes on from there. There's so many challenges they face, and like near the end I was bawling. I was shocked at the ending, like it left in a cliffhanger. I just really love the dragons in this book, and Xaden and Violet. I just love this book. Recommend. I would recommend. I know a lot of you guys already read it, but I got the holiday edition with the sprayed edges, and it's just so pretty. Okay, the next book I read in January, I also read on my Kindle. It is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. I don't really remember much about this, but what I do remember is it's about this girl named Sky. She's been homeschooled her whole life. She's not allowed phones. Like, I don't think she's even allowed to watch TV or anything like that. Then she convinces her mom to let her go to a public high school for her senior year, and that's when she meets a guy named Dean Holder. He's like this bad boy type of guy that like she's told to stay away from, but when they meet, Dean just insists on getting to know her and past and stuff. Some stuff comes up, and she finds out that he's not really who he says he is, and just stuff unravels. And it's very, look up trigger warnings in this, because there's just like stuff that happens in the book that I know may upset some people, but I did not see the twist that was gonna happen near the end of this book. I was completely shocked. I think I read it in one of my videos, I'm not sure which one, but it was a lot to take in. But I rated this a 4-star, I believe. I do recommend it. As I said, it's on Kindle Unlimited, so if you want to read it. The next 2 books that I'm going to show you are part of my first time trying the 24-hour reading challenge, which if you've watched, I failed. The first book that I read in that was Better Than the Movies by Len Painter, and this was such a good book. It's like your typical cheesy rom-com that's just so easy to read. It's fast-paced. It doesn't require a lot of thinking or brain power. You just like kind of get into it, and it's easy going. There's not a lot going on. It's just like a lighthearted rom-com. This book is about Liz and Wes. Liz is grieving her mom this whole book, and Wes is like the next door bad boy neighbor, and they're kind of like frenemies or enemies. This is kind of like an enemies to lovers in high school trope, and I really loved it. The one thing I loved about this book was there was so many references to classic rom-coms that I know everyone has watched. It also included a playlist. Yeah, in the back of the book. I rated this book a 4.5 stars. If you haven't read it, you should. The next book, Losing Hope, which I read on my Kindle, which is the second book in the Hopeless series, so right after Hopeless. I ended up DNFing it because I felt like I was just reading the same story again, because it takes place at the same time as Hopeless, and it's just like in a different character's point of view, in Dean's point of view. There were like some differences in the beginning, that's why like I continued on, but then when I got to the part where things overlapped in Hopeless, like I just felt like I was just reading the same thing, and I was just like not into that. I feel like it's a good book to read once like later on when I need a refresher on what happens in the first book. The last book that I read in January is Happy Place by Emily Henry, and I loved this so much. This is about a group of friends who meet up at their like summer house for the last time because it's gonna be sold. So like they just wanted to like have this one last summer together because they spent like almost all their summers here from what I remember. But the main characters in here are Harriet and Wynn. There's like newfound family in this book. It's like a second chance romance trope too. Harriet and Wynn, they've been dating for I think since college, and they've had like the most like perfect relationship until something happens and they end up breaking up, and then they go to this summer house with all their friends, and their friends don't know that they broke up, so they have to like fake being in a relationship and convince everyone that they're still together. There's a lot of like deep topics in this book. I think I remember gave the message of not being afraid of change and new beginnings, that it's never too late to start something that you love. That's what I remember about it, and that's what really stuck with me. It's just about life. I gave this a 5 stars. Okay, now I'm moving on to February. I didn't read a lot of books in this month because I was busy with school, I don't know, and everything else. I read the first 4 books in the Avatar series, and this is when I found out that I don't even need to say what these books are about because I know everyone and their mother knows about this book or about Sarah J Maas. Like, it's just like one of the best series I've read. So I'll just like talk about my thoughts on each book. Court of Thorns and Roses. I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I read this. Like, I was told this was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I love Beauty and the Beast. Do have to say that I love Tamlin in this. I was like, oh my god, he seems like Prince Charming and all that, and he's just letting her do whatever she wants. My feelings changed really fast when I got into the second book because we meet Rysand in the second book. I think this was my favorite book in the whole series, just because we meet Rysand and their love story and just everything that happens between Feyre and Rysand. I know it's Rysand, but in my mind I keep saying Rysand, and that's just his name in my mind, and I don't know how to explain it. But this book, oh my god, I felt so many emotions. If you saw my part 2 of reading the ACOTAR series, it does have spoilers, so if you haven't read it, don't watch it, I guess. But I went through so much emotions in this book. I was giggling, laughing, getting all giddy, and then the next moment I'd be angry and crying. Oh, I forgot to say my rating for this. I did give this a 5-star without knowing what I had in store for me for the rest of the series. I think I'd keep it a 5-star because just of like the feelings it gave me, and like Beauty and the Beast telling, I love that. This would be a 5 if I didn't know what was happening in the rest of the books. And this is like way above a 5 stars, like 6-star, whatever is the highest rating. The next book was Aquawar, and this book still made me cry, but I felt that like more than half of the book was like very slow. There's like a lot of that world building, just like a lot of politics included in it with the other high lords, but when the action started to happen, it was so good. I couldn't stop. It was heartbreaking. It would be like I'd be sad and then I'm happy, and I'd be sad again and then I'd be happy. Like, that's the emotional journey this book put me. Like, and we know the last 100 pages of any Sarah J Maas is where everything explodes, and that's very apparent in this. It didn't stop. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Aquafos, and this is like the holiday edition. This was like a tiny little novella. It's a nice break from like thick books that have been in this series so far, and I think I rated this book a 4.5 or a 4, I'm not sure. Okay, in March is where we get to most of the books that I've read this year so far. In the month of March, I read 10 books, which is a pretty good amount. First book that I read this month, Magnolia Parks. People have compared this to like Gossip Girl mixed with like London High Society, and this book follows Magnolia Parks, who is a beautiful, affluent, self-involved, and mildly neurotic London socialite, and BJ Ballantyne, who is Britain's most notorious and photographed bad boy who broke her heart. But these two are meant to be in everyone knows it. That's what it says in the back. But this book is drama packed. It's almost like you're watching a reality TV show. There's always something going on. Magnolia and BJ, they used to be together. Since they're famous, they're always like the target of the public eye, and they're always like photographed, or whenever they fight, it's always in the news the next day. I don't want to say anything more of it because I feel like I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, it's just about their dysfunctional relationship, and I rated this a 5 stars. It was so good. Like, this is so different from any other books that I've read. The next book I read in March is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This was very fast-paced and easy to read. This series, I think, is gonna be a TV show this year. That's why I wanted to read it. But anyways, this is about our main character Pip, who decides to use like a murder case that's happened at their school as like her main capstone project for her senior year. The murder was of a high school girl named Auntie Bell, and everyone believed that she was murdered by her boyfriend Sal Singh. And then she dives deep into this case and views the details and everything that was put out to the public, and she talks to the people, interviews people who were involved, and later she finds out there's some inconsistencies in the details. And this book follows her journey of trying to make sense of the case. That's the gist of this book, and I gave this a 5 star. The next book I read, I'm still thinking about this book like every day, is The 7 Years Slip by Ashley Poston. I absolutely love this book. I think this is like one of my most favorite romance books that I ever read, because it's just, there's like something unique about it. This book is about Clementine. She lives in New York. She inherited her late aunt's apartment, and her late aunt always used to say that the apartment's magical. It goes back 7 years or forward 7 years, and for her it went back 7 years, and she met a guy living in the apartment, and and she ends up like falling for him, which was one of her aunt's rules, was one, to take off your shoes in the apartment, and to never fall in love because you never know what you're gonna encounter. And yeah, she ends up falling in love with a guy that's 7 years in the past. And yeah, that's all I want to say. I just love how this author included this magical realism into the story. It just made it so much more unique and different from all the other like romance books that I've read, and I would recommend this to every single person who hasn't read it. I rated this a 5-star or 6-star or whatever. This is like way up there. It was amazing. I still think about this every day. I did predict the ending like from the very start, but it's not about that. It was the emotional journey that Ashley Poston put me through, and I love. Next book that I read is Shatter Me. I know this is like part of popular fantasy series I've seen on TikTok. This book is about Juliet, a girl who has like a lethal touch, and if she touches anyone they could be like severely hurt or killed, and she's basically in prison or on a sane asylum, but she's there, and the reestablishment or the government is technically like trying to use her for the war that's coming up or whatever is going on, and she meets a guy. There's some romance in here, but yeah, this book was a 5 stars for me. The next few books are like in my starting famous book series, Caraval. This book is about 2 sisters named Scarlett and Donatella. They get invited to the Caraval, which is like a magical show, I guess, that only takes place once a year, and you have to get invited to watch or play. So they end up going together. During the journey there, Scarlett loses her sister and she tries and find her, but then later on she finds out that Legend, the main operator of Caraval, took her and made her part of the game. So the game was that the players had to find where Donatella is, the younger sister, and then they'll win the price of 1 wish. And yeah, Scarlett plays, and she's told that, you know, everything's a game, nothing's real, don't believe everything that you see. Basically, that is the gist of this story. I rated this like a 3.75 just because I found the beginning of the book very slow, and it only kind of got interesting 200 pages in the book, and the ending, I just felt like it was anticlimactic. The next book, very popular, I don't even need to explain it. I read Assassin's Blade, which is, I don't want to say the first book in the Throne of Glass series because there's a lot of debate on the reading order in the Throne of Glass series, but I decided to start with Assassin's Blade. Assassin's Blade is the like backstory of our main character, Selena Sordothian, and it contains 5 novellas just about her life and how she's come to be what she is now. I gave this a 4.5 stars just because like some of the novellas weren't as interesting, but the last one, all I'm gonna say, it was heartbreaking. The next 2 books is in my new video. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. It's the reading the highest and lowest rated on my physical TBR, and the highest rated was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I think I gave this a 5 stars. I did not like it at first, but once I got into like Evelyn's point of view, that's where it got interesting. It's very like different from other books that I've read. I think this is like Letfic. The next book was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This was the lowest rated book on my physical TBR, and I finally get why. I thought this would be so much better than I thought it was gonna be because all I heard about it was good things. Basically, the book's about Casey Fletcher, who is recently a widowed actress who goes to their family's lake house in Vermont just recuperate after her husband's death and, you know, like get her life together and just have time to think. But then she sees that there's people across the lake. I think it's like the end of the summer where people have left like the lake and they're going back to their normal lives. But yeah, she sees the house across the lake is occupied by Tom and Catherine Royce, who are also famous people. She ends up saving Catherine from drowning in the lake, and from then on she technically like spies on them through binoculars, which is kind of creepy because their house is like just glass, so like at night you can see through every room. But then one day Catherine disappears and she suspects Tom, the husband, of foul play, so she like goes down this rabbit hole of trying to find out where Catherine is. Plot twist in this was like on another level shocking because it felt like it didn't belong in the story. It was like it just like took a 180 turn. I had some predictions that I wrote down. None of them happened because this book, you just don't expect it. Like, it was very different. Did not expect it. I thought I was reading a different book. I rated this book a 3 stars. And the last 2 books I read in March, they're in a video that's coming up soon. I'm not gonna say what video it is, but based on these 2 books, I feel like you're gonna guess. I'm not gonna say much about them too because yeah, the video is not out yet by the time this is out. But yeah, the second last book that I read was Flawless by Elsie Silver. And this is like a cowboy romance, small town romance, and I just loved it. I ate it up. It's about Rhett and Summer, the 2 main characters in here. Rhett is like a famous bull rider who's gotten himself into a little bit of a scandal, I'd say, and then his manager told him to kind of just lay low, stay out of the media's eye for a little bit until he fixes what he did. And then so the manager tells his daughter Summer to like kind of supervise him and follow him around, make sure he's not doing anything that he shouldn't be doing. And then, you know, things happen from there. I rated this book a 3.75 just because some parts in this book were kind of cringy to me, especially like the spice scenes. The last book that I read this month is Twisted Love, the first book in the Twisted Love series. This is about Alex and Ava. Alex is like this bad boy guy and Ava's this free-spirited, optimistic girl. So it's like Grumpy Sunshine and Girl Next Door trope. He has a heart of ice, but for her he'd burn the world. That basically tells what the story is about. But I rated this a 4 star just because, again, some of the spice scenes were kind of cringy and a little bit too much for me, but I did overall enjoy this book. Well, those are all the books that I read in January, February, and March. If you made it this long to the video, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, it's been a good 3 months. I've read a lot of books and found 5 stars and found some of my favorite reads and found stuff that I didn't really like about books, which is good because now I know my taste in books. I'm still learning what my reading type, what I like in books and what I don't like in books. But yeah, there's so much more to go. I want to read so much more books, and yeah, if you guys have any book recommendations that you think I'd like or you want me to read, please comment them down below. I would greatly appreciate any feedback, or what is going on my camera? Any feedback or recommendations that you guys have. Thanks for watching this week's video, and I hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you liked me, maybe subscribe down below. Thank you for watching, and I hope I see you in the next video.